Long before America was ever called America, a forgotten empire left behind a trail of evidence so powerful that modern governments would sacrifice anything, truth, history, even human lives, to erase it forever. The Atlantic wind roared like a living beast against a lone cabin perched on the cliffs of Bar Harbor, Maine. Lightning flashed across the sky, carving the forest into jagged silhouettes as rain hammered down with relentless fury. Inside, the storm was distant, a muted heartbeat, while Dr. Eleanor Hayes stood hunched over a worn oak table, her breath trembling with anticipation. 15 years of tireless research, countless archives, scattered clues across continents, but none of it prepared her for what she was staring at now. A map. A map that should not exist. Its parchment was ancient, far older than anything she had ever touched, yet the coastlines sketched on its surface were modern and unmistakable. Maine, Cape Cod, Nova Scotia, Long Island, the Carolinas, and the Hudson River estuary, all perfectly outlined with a precision no medieval cartographer should have possessed. But the detail that froze her heart was the date burned into the corner, 1294 A.D. 200 years before Columbus, 70 years before the Norse sagas hinted at transatlantic voyages, centuries before the New World existed in anyone's imagination. "This is impossible," she whispered. Her laptop pinged, ignored in the corner. Every neuron in her mind fired at once. This map could rewrite the timeline of human exploration. Thunder shook the cabin. She wasn't alone. Mason Carter, her research assistant and former Navy diver, stood drenched in the doorway, breathing hard. In his hands, an old metal case, battered by the ocean. "You need to see this," he said, voice urgent, controlled. "What happened?" Eleanor asked. "This washed up near the inlet, but there's something else." He handed her a small device, a GPS tracker, military issue, still active. Her blood ran cold. "Someone was tracking this?" "Yeah," Mason said, "and they're close." Eleanor opened the metal case. Inside was an obsidian tablet, smooth, impossibly preserved, etched with symbols she had only seen once in her life. Symbols said to belong to a civilization older than the Phoenicians, older than recorded history. And now those same symbols were here again. Not Mediterranean, not Norse, something far older. Then headlights slashed across the window. 2 black SUVs stopped outside. Men in tactical gear stepped out, silent, coordinated, faceless. Eleanor's eyes widened at the emblem on their jackets, a serpent coiled around a globe. She had seen that symbol twice before, in forbidden government archives, and on crates containing artifacts the public was never allowed to see. The Axiom Order, history's cleaners, erase the past, control the truth. A knock rattled the cabin door. "Dr. Hayes, step outside with the map. No one will be harmed." Mason dimmed the lantern. "We're leaving." Eleanor stuffed the map and tablet into a waterproof satchel. Mason ripped up a floorboard, revealing a narrow escape tunnel. The door shuddered. A spotlight swept across the windows. "Dr. Hayes, surrender the classified materials." Eleanor hesitated, but the truth was too big to give up. The door exploded inward. Gunshots, shouts, boots pounding the floor. They dove into the tunnel. The cabin burned behind them, flames rising like a funeral pyre for the truth. "They'll track us," Mason yelled over the storm. "No," Eleanor said, "but we can outsmart them." "What do they want with a 700-year-old map?" "They're not afraid of the map," she whispered. "They're afraid of what the map proves." In the forest, fleeing under lightning-filled skies, Eleanor suddenly froze. The ground shimmered. Not water, not light. A geometric pattern, glowing faintly beneath the mud. "Mason, do you see that?" He stared, speechless. Symbols. The same symbols from the obsidian tablet, etched into the soil beneath coastal Maine. Impossible. Earth-shattering. This was more than a map, more than an artifact. This was a gateway, a message, a clue left by a civilization erased from history and still being suppressed today. "This could change everything," Eleanor whispered. A rifle cracked, a bullet ripped into the tree beside them. Gunfire, lightning, rain exploding around them, the Atlantic roaring below. Eleanor didn't look back, because this wasn't research anymore. This was a war, and she had just become the most hunted woman in America.
The forest became a blur of twisting branches and violent shadows as Eleanor and Mason sprinted through the storm. Rain hammered against the earth, turning the ground into a sliding sheet of mud, making every step a desperate struggle. Behind them, the soldiers wearing the serpent emblem advanced with chilling precision. Silent hand signals, sweeping flashlights, and movements honed from years of coordinated hunts. These were not amateurs, they were professionals, and they were not coming to negotiate. A bullet sliced through the air, passing so close to Eleanor's ear that she felt the wind burn her skin. It slammed into a pine tree ahead with a solid, cracking thud. Mason pulled her sharply to the right, guiding her around a fallen log. "This way," he shouted over the storm, "toward the old quarry." Eleanor gasped. "Why the quarry?" "Because it's too unstable. If we're lucky, they won't risk charging in blind." Lightning ripped open the sky, illuminating the looming cliffside ahead, the abandoned quarry that locals whispered about. Closed since the 1970s after multiple collapses. Rumors claimed the tunnels ran deeper than any map had ever recorded. Deep, uncharted, a perfect hiding place. As they neared the cliff's edge, the wind intensified, shrieking like a warning from the past. The quarry appeared like a black wound in the landscape. Jagged stone walls, collapsed scaffolding, and rusted mining machines swallowed by creeping vines. The air smelled of wet granite and forgotten centuries. Mason grabbed Eleanor's wrist. Careful, one wrong step and... The ground crumbled beneath him. "Mason!" Eleanor lunged forward, grabbing his arm as he dropped into a collapsing sinkhole. His boots kicked helplessly at loose gravel as he dangled over a yawning black void. His grip tightened around her wrist, knuckles white. "I've got you," Eleanor gasped. "Don't let go," Mason choked, legs flailing over empty space. Her feet slipped, but she drove her knee into the muddy ground and pulled with every ounce of strength she had. Mason found a foothold, scrambled upward, and together they collapsed onto solid ground, panting as thunder cracked above them. Mason coughed. "I forgot to mention, I really don't like heights." Eleanor let out a shaky laugh. Terrible timing. But any relief died as flashlights flickered behind them. "They're close," Mason said. "We need to get underground." Eleanor scanned the quarry. One tunnel still stood, rotted wooden beams holding together a dark entrance that seemed to breathe. A rusted metal sign dangled crookedly. "Danger! Unstable mines! Do not enter." Mason smirked. "Perfect." They rushed inside. Instantly, the storm vanished. The tunnel swallowed the sound, the cold air thick and ancient. Their breaths echoed softly. Eleanor flicked on a small flashlight. Its beam cut through the darkness like a thin blade. The stone walls appeared carved by miners, But beneath the marks, older etchings emerged. Symbols, patterns, ancient geometry. Eleanor froze. "Mason, look." He raised the light and fell silent. The carvings matched those on the obsidian tablet. Flowing curves, interlocking spirals, star maps, architectural marks from no known American, European, or Norse culture. "This is older than the quarry itself," Eleanor whispered. Mason brushed away dust. "How old?" Eleanor swallowed. "These symbols, they appear only in one place on Earth." "Where?" "A cave in Patagonia, dated at least 8,000 years old." Mason stared. "Then what the hell are they doing here?" Before she could answer, a faint humming vibrated through the stone. Not thunder, not machinery, something deeper, electrical, ancient, alive. Footsteps sounded at the tunnel entrance. The soldiers had followed. Mason switched off the flashlight. Darkness consumed them. "Stay quiet," he whispered. The soldier's shadow stretched across the walls. Beams of light swept the tunnel. Tools clicked. Orders whispered. A flashlight passed inches from Eleanor's face. She held her breath. 3 seconds. 4. 5. The light moved on. Mason leaned close. "We can't outrun them forever." "No," Eleanor whispered, "but maybe we don't have to." She shielded a faint flashlight beam and studied the carvings. "These markings, they're not random. They're a sequence." "A code?" Mason asked. "More like instructions." "For what?" Eleanor traced a carved image of an unfamiliar ship. Sleek, aerodynamic, nothing like Viking or European vessels. Above it, constellations. Orion, the Pleiades, and another unknown formation. A celestial navigation route. Mason whispered, "This is global." "More than that," Eleanor replied. "Maybe pre-Columbian contact wasn't accidental. Maybe they were returning." A deep rumble shook the tunnel. Dust fell from the ceiling. "What was that?" Mason whispered. Another rumble, louder. Then a mechanical click from deep within the earth. A grounding hum, not made by nature. A blue glow flickered at the tunnel's end. "That's," Mason whispered. "I know," breathed Eleanor. "Not human." They moved toward the light. The tunnel opened into a massive underground hall carved directly into granite. Dry, preserved, engineered with impossible precision. At the center, a massive stone disk, 10 feet across, floating, suspended by no visible support, glowing with spiraling glyphs of blue light. Mason stared. "Eleanor, is that thing floating?" "It's electromagnetic suspension," she said breathlessly. "Thousands of years old. This entire place, it's a vault." "For what?" "For knowledge, for truth, for a civilization wiped from history." The humming intensified. The disk began to rotate. Eleanor felt her heart race. "It's activating," Mason said. Should we run? Before she could answer. "No need." A voice echoed behind them. A silhouette stepped into the chamber. Serpent emblem, tactical gear, rain dripping. In his hand, the ancient map. "Dr. Hayes," the man said calmly, "you've gone far enough." Mason stepped forward. "Stay back." The man smiled. "I'm Commander Aldrich Shaw, second custodian of the Axiom Order, and you are about to reveal a truth humanity is not ready to face." The disk glowed brighter. The chamber vibrated. Mason whispered, "Eleanor, what do we do?" She stared at the ancient machine, at the truth she had chased her entire life, and whispered, "We finish what history started." She placed her hand on the disk. Light exploded. The ground roared, and everything turned white.
White light swallowed everything. For a moment, Eleanor felt weightless, falling, floating, suspended in a place without sound, without gravity, without breath. The ancient symbols pulsed around her like collapsing stars. Then suddenly, impact. She hit the ground hard. Mason crashed beside her, groaning. Eleanor pushed herself up, vision swimming, and realized they were no longer in the mine. They stood within a colossal underground hall. Pillars stretched into endless darkness. Ancient aqueducts dripped water from impossible heights, and faint glowing moss shimmered like constellations scattered across stone. Mason whispered, "Where the hell are we?" Eleanor replied, "We didn't teleport. The disk opened a passage to something older than civilization itself." A hum rose behind them. A flash. Aldrich Shaw and his soldiers materialized in the chamber. "Do you understand now?" Aldrich said calmly. "Some discoveries are meant to stay buried." But Eleanor wasn't listening. Her eyes had locked onto a massive stone door, 30 feet tall, carved with images of ancient ships, star charts, and a radiant symbol unlike any known culture. She approached it slowly. "It's a seal," she whispered. "The mark of an empire erased from history." Aldrich stepped forward. "That door hides the remnants of a civilization that nearly destroyed the Americas." The ground rumbled. Dust fell. The symbols glowed like molten gold. The door began to open.
A deafening grind filled the hall. A darkness deeper than night opened before them. Eleanor stepped inside before anyone could stop her. Mason cursed and followed. Aldrich and his soldiers had no choice. They pursued. The corridor ignited with cold blue flames. Murals appeared along the walls, ships crossing oceans, astronomers charting the sky, cities rising across continents. This was no lost tribe, no forgotten village. It was a global empire. Eleanor whispered, "This was their capital." Aldrich's voice echoed behind her. "We call them the Origin Dominion." They walked deeper. The murals darkened. Massive waves swallowing cities. Sky burning with falling stars. Civil war. Collapse. Eleanor's voice trembled. "They destroyed themselves?" Finally, they reached a circular chamber. At its center, a stone slab, a record of their final message. Eleanor touched it. The slab erupted with light, revealing a glowing map of the entire American continent, not as it is now, but as it once was. Dozens, hundreds of ancient cities connected across the land. Mason whispered, "They were everywhere." But Eleanor's eyes focused on one location, a pulsing symbol brighter than the rest. "The heart of the empire," she breathed, "where it all began." Aldrich's voice hardened behind her. "That city must never be found." Eleanor turned toward him. "Then why did they leave a map leading straight to it?" Before Aldrich could respond, the chamber shook. A roar echoed from the corridor. Not human, not mechanical. Something ancient. Something awakening. Aldrich shouted, "Fall back, now!" But it was too late. The guardians of the Origin Dominion had awakened.
Whitaker stepped deeper into the chamber of echoes, his footsteps bouncing across the ancient stone like distant thunder. The cold hit him first, unnatural, as if the room had been sealed away from time itself. His lantern flickered, throwing restless shadows across the carved walls. Lucille followed quietly, notebook in hand, her eyes wide with awe. She whispered, trembling, "This place feels alive." Whitaker nodded. Places that guard forbidden knowledge usually do. At the far end stood a massive stone table. The manuscript on top glowed faintly, its ink shimmering like liquid metal. But it wasn't the glow that frightened Whitaker. It was the movement. The symbols on the parchment shifted, slowly, like ripples across water. Lucille gasped, "It's reacting to us." Whitaker leaned closer. "No, it's reacting to everything. Air, light, maybe even time." Suddenly, a soft click echoed behind them. The sound of stone grinding followed. They turned as a hidden panel slid open, revealing an obsidian tablet covered in intricate engravings. A map of ancient North America. But this one was thousands of years older than any known civilization. Marked with roads, cities, astronomical alignments, things no history book had ever recorded. Lucille whispered, stunned, "This changes everything." But Whitaker's eyes locked onto a single carved phrase at the bottom, a warning written in ancient Greek. "Do not awaken what sleeps beneath the Ninth Meridian." His stomach tightened. He had seen that phrase before, in a banned 1940s U.S. survey report, one that vanished along with the team who wrote it. Whitaker stepped back. "Lucille, this chamber wasn't a vault." She turned, confused. "What do you mean?" Whitaker swallowed hard. "It was a prison." A faint tremor shook the ground. Lucille grabbed his arm. "Tell me that wasn't real." Cracks formed across the obsidian tablet, glowing with the same metallic light as the manuscript. Then came the pulse. A deep, slow heartbeat rising from beneath the chamber floor. Whitaker backed away. "We have to leave, now." But before they could move, something behind the collapsing tablet began to stir. Not stone, not machinery, something alive. They ran, sprinting down the corridor as the chamber exploded behind them in a storm of dust and ancient force. The entrance slammed shut like a tomb. Silence returned. But the heartbeat continued. Louder, closer. Lucille whispered, terrified, "They never meant for it to be found." Whitaker exhaled shakily. "We're not the first to discover it." He paused. "Just the first to survive."